Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast and game 1 in a best of 7 series here from the Machinima Realm Invitational. Game 1 taking place on Blistering Sands between Mouz and Root. MouzMorrow spawning as the purple Zerg on the north side of the map. Meanwhile, we have over here an orange Protoss RootKiWiKaKi. Blistering Sands, one of those maps where early aggression normally pays off just because of these backdoor rocks. Those backdoor rocks are very free and are able to get taken down relatively easily, and a lot of early aggression. I've seen a lot of 4-gate play, a lot of 2-racks play, and I've even seen a lot of Roach Hydra play, just trying to get a lot of early aggression on with early metabolic lings. So we'll see what happens in this game between Mouz and Root, as MouzMorrow looking to build just a standard economy, nothing too out of the ordinary yet. Back over here, we see RootKiWiKaKi getting a low ground pylon. So he may decide to go for a low ground gateway and a Cybernetics core, or a Forge fast expand. Both are relatively strong options. It most likely will depend on what exactly he sees his opponent do. If Morrow lays down a relatively early hatchery, he may decide to try to go for that Forge fast expand and not lose any ground in the economic race. But we see Morrow currently getting an extractor. So with that extractor, I'm assuming that it is going to be a gateway instead of a Forge, as the early extractor normally means that it will be metabolic boosted lings. There we go, we are getting that gateway in now, and now KiWiKaKi using this very early probe, causing harassment, trying to deal damage towards this drone. The drone currently sitting at 24, and now the natural shields on that probe will start regenerating a little bit more quickly, and that probe will be completely refreshed in just a moment. However, a new drone now coming down, and the new drone trying to give chase, and now both sides exchanging blows once again, and now the probe back down to 20 hit points, deciding to pull back, and now Morrow has suffered a couple points of damage, but now that probe has actually suffered some critical damage and still wandering back around this game. We do see that the spawning pool is nearing completion, and this extractor over here still mining away. We should be getting metabolic boosted lings in just a moment. That is going to help out on this map, as the walking distance between these two locations are relatively far, and that metabolic boosted lings just help those Zerglings traverse that distance much more quickly. One zealot now being trained, already rallied in between these two buildings here, most likely will hold position so that no Zerglings are able to squeeze through these two buildings and then run into this mineral line here. KiWiKaKi getting a relatively strong economy. You can see him sitting on 20 harvesters. His mineral count is about the same right now, just because he is currently harvesting gas, and Morrow did decide to stop his gas production right when he got to 100, and now mining even more minerals. The hatchery down over here just started, so Morrow will be able to mine off of 16 mineral patches in just a moment and get a little bit of an economic lead. Now, as a Zerg player, you really want to figure out what your opponent's trying to do. Right now, Morrow has essentially no idea what's going on inside the space. He doesn't know if there's 2 gas or what other key technical buildings are currently being built. And now we see that Stargate. So it is not going to be any 4-gate play, but that one Stargate will be able to train up Void Rays and Phoenixes, enabling just a lot of map control. There are a lot of cliffs on this map, really giving way to a lot of airplay, as the air units obviously do not have to worry about walking up or down cliffs, just simply maneuvering in the air and able to surprise and do sneak attacks. The critical question will be, are we going to get Void Rays or Phoenixes? Both options are relatively strong, and because he has such a large number of pylons, I think that he's going to end up trying to go for Void Rays. We'll see. He also does have a large amount of energy on this Nexus, now chrono boosting and now training up Void Rays. Void Rays able to attack and lair and land and air, and also deal damage to these armored overlords relatively quickly, and perhaps supply locking Morrow. Morrow now moving out with all of these Zerglings, trying to make sure that there are no proxy pylons and no sneak play. Some Protoss players like to hide Stargates on the north side here and then fly them in, as it really helps cut down on the walking or flying distance of those units. One Void Ray is now out, and it looks like he's going to make a straight line for what he expects to be an Overlord in that position. He may have seen it earlier, and that Void Ray will be able to get the first kill off in this battle. Zergling's now trying to once again test the waters. Another sentry now coming in, and that Zealot just standing there doing its job, acting as a human shield, preventing any Zerglings to be able to run by. Overlord quickly getting taken down there, and now we see drones being placed down by Morrow. So Morrow expecting that there may be perhaps some gateway units coming in on the front door and wants to deal some damage, but I do not believe that any of the sides have that large of an army. Taking a look at Morrow. Morrow has not scouted out into the base just quite yet. He needs to do some traditional scouting in order to figure out what's happening here as the probes are now being transferred. It looks as though, yeah, the spine crawlers were canceled here. And now just continuing to mine once again. A lot of idle drones over here. Not quite sure what Morrow's trying to do with that. Seeing on 4 idle drones as the Void Ray is in the air, trying to deal more damage towards Zerglings. I do not believe he will be able to take him down as a Zergling does move relatively quickly. No, that Zergling just stood there to get shot down. Void Ray once again on the move and perhaps going to wait for a couple brothers. There is one brother down over here and a third brother now coming in as well. So 3 Void Rays in the air. And those Void Rays will be able to deal a lot of damage. We do see 1 Queen currently in play, and now the Hydralisk Den currently being built. So those Hydralisks need to be pumped out very, very quickly. Otherwise, those Void Rays are just going to have their way in this mineral line with a very, very fast attack rate. Now sniping down. Yes, going after the Extractor first. The Extractor will get taken down unless a Queen tries to make its way over. Only 1 Queen. He doesn't want to engage just quite yet. Wants to wait for 3 Queens, or at least 2. There's that 3rd Queen. And now going to try to move out 2 Void Rays in the air. Those Void Rays now trying to give chase, trying to give damage, now able to take down a couple of those drones, but now the Queens are now going to go after those key units as well. Those Void Rays, however, are trying to fight back. One of those Queens does have enough energy for a transfusion, and that will make it very difficult for those Void Rays who do not get any bonus damage onto unarmored units. Not going to really be able to snipe down any of those Queens. We now see Zerglings taking down these destructible rocks over here, so he will be able to get gold minerals in just a moment. And now trying to go after even more drones. Once again, drones are getting taken down. However, Hydralisk now coming in. Hydralisk going to give chase. There's not enough creep over here, and the Hydralisk being forced to walk around the Extractor. Will it be able to shoot down the Void Ray? Void Ray down to 7 hit points, and wow, able to escape. So Void Rays, with that movement, able to outrun those Hydralisks, as those Hydralisks were not able to move and attack. One more round of attack, and 1 very, very expensive Void Ray would have been shot out of the sky. And Morrow now establishing this hatchery over here and taking a very, very strong 3rd base. If he's able to hold on to that hatchery, or hold on to this hatchery and this base, his economic lead should be able to continue to push him through. However, the Void Rays now moving out. Perhaps we'll be able to snipe down this hatchery on the bottom right-hand side. It doesn't look like it, as those Hydralisks are now trying to just use this creep highway. Hydralisks on creep move 50% faster, which also means that they move 50% faster than those Void Rays as well. Will the Void Rays be able to get within combat range and deal damage towards this hatchery? The hatchery is very, very vulnerable at this time. No creep being generated. Hydralisk having a very difficult time trying to get between these 2 locations. And now in come those Hydralisks. Hydralisk able to almost take down, no, focusing on the wrong Void Ray, unable to get past those shields. And now a Zergling coming in here. We do see an Observer coming in from KiWiKaKi. KiWiKaKi using that Observer should be able to, will be able to start revealing these creep tumors and perhaps start shutting down this creep highway. That creep highway is absolutely critical for those Hydralisks in order to be able to get underneath those Void Rays. And now in comes these Void Rays once again, and now unable to see up onto that high ground. Are those Hydralisks going to be able to deal any damage? Hydralisks now trying to give chase. It looks like some of those Hydralisks still giving chase, leaving the rest of the group behind. And the Void Rays should just turn around and try to snipe down those 2 Hydralisks. Yeah, 1 Hydralisk will get taken down. Down it goes. A second Hydralisk going to go ahead and join his brethren here and simply wait. So we now see nothing happening down over here as the backdoor rocks are still up. At some point, I expect KiWiKaKi to try to take down those backdoor rocks, enabling his gateway units to walk out much more quickly. Creeps have been cleaned up here. Hydralisk will not be able to move out as quickly any further. But there is the hatchery down over here by MouzMorrow. MouzMorrow should be able to continue this and get a stronger economy. Production-wise, we now see a Colossus already in play as these rocks are getting taken down, and now we see 6 Corruptors as well. Corruptors, the natural choice at this point, as you train up more and more Hydralisks to counter those Void Rays, you must expect your Protoss opponent to get these Colossi. Colossi are very strong against those Hydralisks as this very large army now makes its way out. Both sides about the same size army as these stalkers, and even some probes moving out and trying to establish a nexus over here. So we now see KiWiKaKi attempting to establish a third base of his own. The Void Rays are standing up on the high ground. Both sides are fighting. The Corruptors now going after those Void Rays. Void Rays are getting a little bit picked apart. There are a couple of force fields down over here, but it doesn't matter. Those Hydralisks do have that Groove Spine upgrades and able to deal a fair amount of damage. However, the Void Rays now moving out a little bit too far, and he's got to be careful. Those Corruptors are going to be able to snipe down some of those Void Rays relatively easily, and now in comes some Roaches as well. Roaches trying to give chase, walking up onto that high ground. Stalkers now trying to come back in once again. One of those sentries taken down, so it's a Stalker Void Ray Colossus army against Roaches, Hydralisks, and Corruptors. Those Corruptors do not deal bonus damage against those Void Rays, as Void Rays are not considered massive units, so they do not take extra damage, and that is why those Void Rays are actually having a higher DPS and an easier time than those Corruptors. However, there is Corruption, and I believe if Morrow did cast Corruption, he would have been able to take down perhaps more of those Void Rays. A decent sized army down here on the low ground, but the economy currently belongs to Morrow, as Morrow has that stronger economy. In comes those Hydralisks. Hydralisks able to snipe down that one pylon there, and now a lot of Zerglings in production in addition to the level 2 weapons upgrade. Level 2 weapons upgrade, Hydralisks able to attack at 14 damage per attack, Roaches at 20 damage at attack, and now it's going to be a split attack. The Roaches now simply going to walk up this front door here, as the Corruptors perhaps going to try to take down the expansion over here, so the Roaches simply just walking up, able to snipe down that one cannon over here, and now going to try to start dealing damage towards those Stalkers. However, yes, Hydralisks now coming in here with Zerglings, and Zerglings able to finish off these pylons, and perhaps this Nexus as well. RootKiWiKaKi losing his expansion before it was even fully up, as those Void Rays continue to move out, able to, yes, snipe down another Colossus. 2 Roaches left, and those Roaches were just blindly attacking a gateway, not really dealing all too much damage. Back over here, long distance mining coming in from the probes. The mineral patches here are starting to wear out, already down to 115, as the Zerglings finishing off that last pylon and retreating. Game can still go anywhere. Zerg level 1 Carapace upgrades, as now the Stalkers now coming down into this location will see that there is an expansion here. We do see a couple of Hydras on the low ground, and will any damage be dealt? Queen now trying to come in, and now just trying to snipe down that hatchery. Hatchery already low on hit points, but in come the Corruptors and the Hydralisks. Hydralisks are on creep, able to get a lot of damage out. More Corruptors trying to come in, and the Corruptors now going after those Void Rays. As soon as those Void Rays are gone, the Hydralisks should be able to get a lot of damage onto those Stalkers. Stalkers do not do that well against Hydralisks, as those Stalkers only deal bonus damage against armored units. However, the Corruptors are in the air, unable to attack ground, as those Hydralisks are now trying to snipe down another Nexus, able to do so, but those Hydralisks need to back off. Zerglings getting caught behind them as well. If those Zerglings are able to swarm in front of those Stalkers, the Stalkers would not be able to retreat, and now nicely done by Morrow once again, able to defend his expansion and keep this third base, as the main mineral patches are starting to mine out now. You can see already down to 5 here, and now down to, I still believe, 7 here, but these mineral patches are starting to deplete as well. In comes another army, but now 19 Roaches currently being macroed up. Just the power and the massive ability for the Zerg to get back into this game, taking down all of those Colossi and all of those expensive Void Ray units. The Corruptors, however, need to back off, as they are not able to turn into Broodlords at this time, and unable to attack all those ground units. We now see a couple of those Hydralisks trying to fight back. Stalkers now trying to fight back as well. No corruption on any of those Stalkers, trying to enforce or trying to increase the DPS across multiple Roaches. Hydralisks continue to push out, and now I believe this Nexus will once again fall. Still sitting at tier 2, no infestation pit, more Roaches still being trained. Roaches are upgraded 2-0 against 1-0 Stalkers, and the Roaches also move a little bit more quickly now with that movement speed upgrade. Roaches, however, do not have tunneling claws. Infestation pit now coming online, as another Colossus joins in on this army. We also see one Void Ray as well. Corruptors on the ground. Stalkers need to focus down many of those Corruptors. However, the Void Ray, however, the Corruptors focusing onto that one Colossus, it was taken down, and RootKiWiKaKi says GG. Wow, great game here on Blistering Sands. MouzMorrow, really impressive Zerg play here on Blistering Sands, able to just establish a lot of bases and essentially just be able to out macro, and because he spent more on his army, could also lose a little bit more, and then eventually the numbers just became too much. You can see the losses, 5,000 additional mineral losses for KiWiKaKi compared to Morrow, and that's why the army imbalance is as it stands. Really great job. I think if KiWiKaKi had tried to excuse me, yeah, if KiWiKaKi had tried to establish this expansion over here on the top left-hand side, instead of this expansion over here on these blue mineral patches, he may have had an easier time actually defending it and pushing it into the late game. Also, many of his Void Rays just simply weren't attacking in the proper units. He needed to go more of a stalker-heavy army and try to make all of those Corruptors completely useless. Also, we never saw KiWiKaKi go for High Templar. When you see that your opponent is getting a lot of air units, High Templar are very, very effective against air units just because air units tend to group up so much. Those Corruptors in the air, they were able to cancel those Colossi that was so strong in dealing that massive area effect damage against those Hydros, against those Roaches, but they never stayed in the battle long enough to really make them worth their while. Thanks for watching again. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for Game 2 in this best of 7 series between Root and Mouz.